teasing one another and being unkind. That they made fun of each other. They loved to say to kids, "You're so gay, you're a faggot." And that was pretty standard stuff.
Right,
that was
right,
what
right.
you saw.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes that I never got to see. But so I could come in and say, "Hey, that's not nice," or "Do you know what you're saying?" Older kids always knew what they were saying.
Yeah.
Younger kids didn't necessarily know what they were saying. So I'd go in there and explain it. They go, "Oh, no, I never meant to be that way." But in a way, they would join in a group, so whatever. But where I saw the most need, really, was the teachers. They would come to me as a guidance counselor and say, "You know what happened in my classroom today? Here's what Johnny said to Danny, and it wasn't nice." And I'd say, "Well, why didn't you say something?" And they say, "Well, that was hard for me. And could you come do it?" And I go, "Well, you're in the time. It's best said right then and there. Yeah, I can come in, I can pull these kids out, I can talk to them, I can have a conversation with the class. But it'd be great if you could, at that moment in time, stop what was going on and say, 'Hey, this is what I just heard. What did you mean? Do you know how so-and-so felt when you said that?'" And they weren't comfortable doing that. They just didn't have the tools and resources. Great teachers, and not all of them could do it.
It sounds like learning as a teacher or school professional how to make a difference in the classroom is something where you really need some training and some help to get it done.
Absolutely. And that's where I knew I could rely on Keshet, and that they had the expertise, and they had their training institutes, and I was lucky enough, and it was a fight to get two students to get two teachers to be able to go, and they came back really excited and clearly with skills in their pockets. And I know that they have done programming. They had a day of silence this year, or last year I should say. It was last spring they had a day of silence, and I think it was pretty dynamic. And they had days of silence before, but it was a joke. It wasn't really regarded well nor taken seriously. But with these teachers having come back from the Training Institute, they had the tools to make it more powerful and more meaningful, and I guess figure out how to engage students in it to make it better.
Right.
So I know that's been something that they came back with. But it was clear that training two people wasn't enough. And my next big, effort was to get the staff trained as a whole, to bring Keshet in to do a staff training. And they did do that. And it was pretty powerful and dynamic. And I know that there was a lot of conversation after that, where people were beginning to look at themselves and talk and figure out how do we take care of students? How do we do this now? So it was pretty exciting.
It feels like this kind of work can really change like a school-wide environment.
Yes, because it's not only does it impact, the GLPT. Not only will it impact, how I said, the gay lesbian. Tell me how to say this.
GLBT.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth on that one. I always do it differently. Something like this kind of training doesn't only impact gay students. It really impacts everybody, because once you have awareness, then you can use that across the board with any group, with anything that's going on. So that was the beauty of this. It was just a beginning. It was a beginning not only for gay students, but for students in general and staff as well.
And how many students are at the school?
There are, I don't know. When I was there were over 1,000 students.
It's a big school.
Oh, actually, let me think about this. When I was there, it was a middle and high school. It's a school that has 3 campuses,
Okay.
2 campuses, a lower school, middle school, and high school. And on our campus, there were about 700 kids. So yes, it was a big place and a lot going on, a lot of diversity, a lot of stuff in the hallways, a lot of banter, a lot of nice stuff, a lot of lovely stuff. And as a staff member, it was pretty exciting for me to be part of some of the discussions.
So let me ask you, just answer like with all the information in it, but tell me about your job and where it was.
Okay, I was the assistant middle school director, and my job was actually in 2 parts. One was to administration, working with staff, and the other part was I was the middle school guidance chair. So I worked with the guidance department and directing their program. I was a counselor as well, so I had my own caseload of students, as well as working with my co-counselors and directing the department and the program.
All right. ask you again.
Yes.
This time, say it with fewer words.
Fewer words, okay.
So
All
tell
right.
me who you are and what you were doing at the school.
I was the assistant middle school director, and I was also the middle school department guidance chair.
Where?
Oh, I was at the Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School in Rockville, Maryland.
And what size school is that?
That was a pretty large school. The middle and high school are in one building, and when I was there were about 700 students there.
And when you started to sort of become that person that other teachers turned to, what prompted that? How did they know?
I think teachers always saw me as a resource, someone they could come and talk to help them think through classroom issues and problems with their students.
Mm-hmm. And how did you first come in contact with Keshet?
Actually, I had heard about their film, Hanine, and a Keshet staff member actually came to the school to show it to us. And I saw that film, and I said, wow, this is amazing stuff. And I wanted to show it at school.
And was there already a GSA at that time?
There was always a GSA on and off. There had, at that point, there was a GSA. It wasn't very active. Earlier, some years before, it was refueled and got active, and then students come and go.
Right.
And so as they go, it became less active. I think now it's pretty active.
So I'm hearing from you that as an educator, this stuff was compelling and made a difference. Can you say something about the relationship that you have personally to these issues of inclusion in Jewish life?
Well, I always called myself a gay magnet, actually. When I worked in higher education, students always sought me out, and I always worked with the gay students on their rights and to be included. My own son, Daniel, is gay and came out at 16. And so, that made me even more of an advocate for gay rights, for gay students, gay inclusion. But I was always that person. This just fueled me more, that's all. So.
Nice. Take a break for a second.
Okay.